To say Kingdom Hearts had proved to be a success would be putting things mildly. Within a year of its worldwide release, the game had sold more than 3 million copies and been met by near universal critical and audience praise. Naturally, with all this hype drummed up by this single game, a question fell upon the gaming world. What comes next? Between the success of the first game and the secret movie found within it, a sequel seemed all but inevitable. Luckily, fans didn't have to wait long, as the highly anticipated Kingdom Hearts 2 was announced at Tokyo Game Show 2003, and so they rejoiced. However, it wasn't alone. Alongside it was the announcement of a title much smaller in scope, a game for the Game Boy Advance by the name of Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. This little game would end up being, for better and worse, one of the most unique games released for the series. One that would highlight some of the series' greatest strengths, while having more than its own fair share of problems. So join me, my friends, as we delve into the strange tale of Chain of Memories, a game that was never supposed to exist, and see why it's one of Kingdom Hearts' most unique and memorable adventures. Shortly after the development of Kingdom Hearts Final Mix wrapped up in 2002, Nomura and many people working on the original team started laying the groundwork for its sequel. But the game director was faced with a simple yet influential plea, a cry from a few kids over the desire to play Kingdom Hearts on the Game Boy Advance. So he began to workshop a 2D Kingdom Hearts game with his team, and after bouncing a few ideas around, development for Kingdom Hearts' first non-numbered game began. Luckily, Nomura had already planned to have a year-long time skip between 1 and 2, giving the team a natural period to fit this new story into. He wanted to tell a story that would explain Sora being back to level 1 in Kingdom Hearts 2. So, he concocted a tale which involves Sora's memories getting jumbled to explain his weakened state in the sequel.
Which I can only assume ended by Nomura looking over and seeing his team playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, in which he screamed, "Eureka!"
Oh yay, what a great decision. So before we get into the game proper, let's address the elephant in the room. Let's talk cards. For reasons as simple as Nomura was thinking about card games when they started development, the team would go on to make them the main visual element to represent this game. Cards are on the box art, cards show up on the title screen, the UI has cards, the menus have cards, cards are served as appetizers alongside a main course of pain. And Jiminy collects cards because he's a nice little cricket with good hobbies. And despite all that, somehow this guy didn't get in the game. Forget anything else in the series. That right there is the greatest mystery of Kingdom Hearts. It's a motif that prevails through the game, and that's why I feel it's necessary to clarify that while the reason they started using card imagery in the game was simple, keeping it was a pretty smart choice, at least as a visual theme. Simply put, the Kingdom Hearts games are intended for younger audiences, including players young enough that the concept of memories given form could be hard to grasp. So tying that concept to cards makes it a whole lot easier for Tiny Tim to understand what the heck is going on. The simple visual metaphor makes the entire rest of the story easier to digest. So even if it's incidental, this choice was a great boon for the narrative. A shame all things are give and take. Enjoy that bit of foreshadowing. Woo. With that little note on the cards out of the way, let's take a stroll down memory lane, shall we? The game picks up right at the end of the first game, with Sora, Donald, Goofy, and Jiminy wandering down the road. That night, Sora meets a man in a black coat who lures the trio to Castle Oblivion, a world that messes with memory and gives the trio the power reset Nomura was looking for. But hey, they might be weaker now, but at least they have a feeling that the missing King and Riku are here, which the cloaked man seems to confirm before handing Sora a card with Traverse Town pictured on it. Using the card on the door in the back takes him to the cozy little town, except not really. They find out pretty quickly that it's just an illusion made of Sora's memories. They also discover that while in these rooms, Donald and Goofy disappear and only show up for cutscenes and as cards in battle, which we will explain later. For now, the gang ventures through the town and finds Leon, who doesn't seem to remember them. Despite that though, he knows their names and feels familiar with them. And this goes for Yuffie and Aerith as well. They realize that they only remember Sora, Donald, and Goofy because Sora's memories are influencing them. They don't linger on this oddity or the dread that it could inspire for too long. After all, Riku and the King could be here, so the trio continues their search. An encounter with Sid is cut short by the returning guard armor, who is just as easy as a fight here as he was in the first game. After dispatching the familiar foe, we see the Final Fantasy gang again, who say their farewells. Before Aerith shows back up to tell Sora that she and everyone else he met in the visit to the town are just figments born of his memories. And if that wasn't a wild enough concept for Sora to have to deal with, she also warns him that his own memories may try and deceive him. With these ominous words in mind, the gang heads out of the town to find the same cloaked man from before. This reunion is of course cut short though, by none other than fan favorite character, Axel. GBA original or remake doesn't matter. This guy has presence and quickly grew to be one of the dev team's favorite characters. A fact that definitely shows if you know anything about this series. After a small fight with the beloved bastard, he counters what Aerith told Sora before by telling him to trust his memory so he can find the person most special to him. And so, shippers rejoice that Axel hath delivered unto them prime evidence that so Riku is sailing. Sorry to break it to everyone, but he's not talking about Riku. And with a warning about becoming a different person when his memories awaken, Axel disappears to let the gang stew on his existential dread-inspiring words. Unfortunately for them, the effects of the castle are becoming apparent just by the second floor, where the gang no longer remembers the name of Hollow Bastion, which is arguably the most important location from the first game. If they can start forgetting the name of the place where so many climactic things happened in the first game, what else could be lost to their memory? It's oddly foreboding and only becomes more unsettling the more you think about it. The cost of this adventure could be a lot higher than any of our heroes could have expected. Stakes are personal and high, and it's great for getting the player invested almost immediately. After all, the very adventure we guided Sora through is at stake here. Even by now, it should be clear that Chain of Memories is a radically different adventure from its predecessor. While the first Kingdom Hearts is a straightforward origin story where Sora learns to be a hero, this game focuses far more heavily on suspense and mystery. We've been introduced to our villains, but know nothing about them. We know that Sora is going to be changed by this castle, Axel just said so himself after all. But can we trust those words? And most importantly, what hidden memories does Sora even have? Just how will this world change the boy? Each of these mysteries run together and are compounded by the oddly shaped castle with its entirely white walls. While most worlds visited are just as colorful as they were in the first game, the halls of Castle Oblivion itself take on this unnatural white tone stripped of all color and identity. And scarily enough, it seems it'll do the same to our heroes as their memories. The very things that make up who they are wither away, leaving them nothing but husks of what they once were, without a shred of identity left. Speaking of memories, it's clear that they're the thematic core of this game, if you couldn't tell from the title. Memories make up the very texture of this game. They make up every level, every attack, and are the single most important aspect of the narrative. And this early on, the game is framing its conflict through the lens of memory. Sora's being told to search his memories and ascend the castle by the cloaked figures called the Organization, but it's clear that it's putting the boy's very memories at stake. It's clear to see that Sora is being manipulated here, even though the extent isn't quite clear. Regardless of that though, it leaves the game asking one very important question. What is the worth of memory? Are things they've forgotten more important than the things they already remember? Considering dealing with their memories are the only way they can reunite with their friends, it seems pretty important. But the only way to know for sure is to climb the castle and find the person most important to Sora. Before that trek up the castle though, let's address the Disney worlds of this game. We go through every world from the first game again here with an altered plot to focus on memories. Every world except Deep Jungle that is, because copyright law is far stronger than light or darkness. One thing all the worlds we got have in common is that they don't push the plot forward at all. There's no villain council to overcome this time, and no element from Castle Oblivion follows into the Disney worlds. They are completely separated from the game's overarching narrative. That being said, they are incredibly thematically tied into the game, and I have a piece of headcanon that says they have more influence over the plot than you might first think. But now's not the time for that. They become a lot more interesting with hindsight, so we'll cover it when they become relevant to the main plot. So for now, let's talk about all the cool things happening between the floors. While going up to the castle, we see Sora, Donald, Goofy, and Jiminy are becoming more frightened of their fading memories. Even the journal has been wiped clean of everything in it. But being the cool guy that he is, Goofy's able to calm everyone down and convince them to keep going by assuring them that at the very least, they're never gonna forget their friends. While the memories fade fast though, we get a look as somewhere in the castle a blonde girl is drawing. Her mysterious presence gets all the more interesting on the next floor, as when Sora's thinking of Kairi, the blonde girl shows up in his memories with her. Between the floors, we frequently get looks at both this girl and the Organization, and it's here that we get introduced to Larxene, the nicest lady in the world who would certainly never bully anyone. Through this, we also find out that for some reason the Organization is obsessed with hearts. At the very least, giving us a look at their motives. However, despite having these similar goals, it seems that Larxene's intending on betraying the Organization, and Axel seems to have a problem with that. Eventually, Sora recognizes the blonde girl as a friend from his island who disappeared when he was little, although he can't remember her name yet. A fact that is exploited by Larxene, who toys with Sora while talking him into fighting the Organization to save his forgotten friend. Her taunts help Sora remember the girl's name though, Namine. Adding to the mystery of who she is, Kairi's good luck charm has been transformed, and now Sora recognizes it as something Namine gave him instead. Larxene goads Sora deeper into the castle, and he is going ballistic. This might be the angriest we've ever seen the boy, and if Larxene was still here, the game might have bumped up a few ratings. Back in the organization's meeting room, we get introduced to Vexen, who isn't convinced Sora's worth all this effort. He gets the go-ahead to test his research, which somehow seems to involve Riku. Our old friend and rival shows up on the next floor to fight Sora, angry at him for not caring about him or Namine's feelings. He accuses Sora for being the reason Namine left the islands, and a fight breaks out. After curb stomping him again, he runs away like he normally does. His anger and what Sora did are new mysteries for the pile, as well as how Vexen's involved with Riku. Afterwards, Donald and Goofy calm Sora down as they convince him that his friend didn't suddenly start hating him. The next time they run into him, Riku is still refusing to listen to Sora at all. Instead, Riku tells him to go to the islands and take care of Kairi, like he told him in the first place, because he's got Namine covered. Throughout this little speech though, he talks down about his friends on the island, as all that matters to him is protecting Namine. Since neither of them are willing to listen to the other though, it seems their rivalry isn't quite done yet. If it wasn't clear before, it is now that something strange is going on with Namine. Someone both the boys had apparently forgotten in the first game is suddenly the center of their identity. They are both becoming entirely obsessed with her, and it's already driving a new wedge between them. Seems that above all else, these two boys now consider themselves Namine's protectors. As per usual, after losing to Sora, Riku gets angsty as hell and runs off. While this was all going down, Axel and Namine have a small but telling interaction in the meeting room. Axel mentions feeling for the girl, which earns him a glare. It seems feelings are somewhat of a sore spot for these people. And more importantly, he mentions that they nobodies can never hope to be somebodies. Notably, he uses nobody as a noun here, which once again raises the question over what the organization is. We don't have context for it at the moment, but with the way he said that, it seems they aren't quite human. On the next floor, Sora finally gets a break from fighting Riku, but the organization never stops their scheming. Axel, Larxene, and the now unveiled Marluxia taunt Vexen about his failed Riku, telling language that hints at the mystery of what Riku is in this game. They goad the scientist into attacking Sora for reasons we won't find out till later. What we do get to find out now, though, is interesting. From the way they talk, it seems like this organization is made up of people without hearts, and for some reason they have a numbering system for the members. Marluxia reminds Namine of a promise Sora made to protect her, something which seems to greatly unnerve the girl as our hero continues his charge to the castle to save her. While it's not too terribly important for this game's overall narrative, the little bits we learn about the organization and who and what they are make for a great mystery that will leave the player all the more interested in them in the next game. For now though, we focus on Sora's journey as it leads him to Vexen, who reveals he's the reason why Riku has been fighting him. Sora launches into an attack while Vexen analyzes his memory, creating another card for him to explore. Strange thing though, Sora doesn't recognize this place, and neither does the player. The only clue we get to how this place relates to Sora is that Vexen refers to it as somewhere coming from the other side of his heart. While this is all going down, Marluxia reveals his goal in getting Vexen to attack Sora. By doing so, he's now working against the organization, and he orders Axel to kill the traitors, leading to one of the best lines in the game.
No taking that back later.
Throughout this tale, Axel is an utter wild card. It's hard to tell who he holds its allegiances to, but for now he seems loyal to the organization. It's not hard to tell why he became a fan-favorite character with all this plotting, scheming, and willingness to ham up every scene he's in. And luckily, we're gonna see him in a whole new light on the next floor. The unknown world Sora was given access to is called Twilight Town. For once, the player's with the gang, as none of us know this place. It's one of the few original creations of this game, and it's here that they find Vexen standing outside a manor. The man asks which of Sora's memories, those of the town or those of Namine, are more real. Naturally, the boy's going to insist that his memories of the girl he was friends with as a child are more real than a town he's never seen before. After the bit of prodding, Vexen begins to peel away some of the layers of mystery surrounding the heart of this game, Namine. His call to question Sora's memories of Namine are the first time they are properly challenged, and it irritates a feeling the game has been building in the player from the start, ever since Aerith warned Sora about trusting his memories. Sora believes with all his heart that Namine is a close friend of his, but with the disappearance of Kairi from his memory, and through the strange way the organization treats her like a tool, it's clear to the player that something strange is going on, and Namine is at the heart of it all. We have a bit of dramatic irony on our side as the player. Unlike Sora and friends, our memories aren't impeded, and that creates a disconnect between Sora and the player.
While his viewpoint and actions throughout the game are understandable to us, we have no connection to Naminé, creating a unique relation between protagonist and viewer through the game's use of dramatic irony. We have no stakes in how Naminé relates to Sora, letting us feel the unease that comes from our hero's sudden fixation on her, and it builds on that tension slowly. Early on, while it seems that Sora's showing a normal amount of concern for Naminé, we as the player have already seen some odd things with the fading image of Kairi and realize something is wrong. But Sora himself has already forgotten his friend, driving that disconnect in early on. The higher we climb, the less we see Kairi and more of Naminé, and find out that our hero grows fiercer in his desire to protect the girl by the floor. It's easy for us to recognize that Sora is becoming far too wound up in trying to save the girl, and we grow suspicious of her because of it. But the game throws in a strong counter to those feelings by showing us the organization. We know for a fact that Naminé is being held captive. We've seen how she's taunted and disrespected by her captors, and can reasonably assume that she isn't a willing participant of whatever they're doing. So, no matter how suspicious she seems, or how crazy Sora's jumbled memories get, we still stay the path. We need Naminé for two reasons. The first is to get answers. A game this packed with mystery is just practically forcing the player into continuing forward. The second reason is even simpler. After seeing how she's being treated by the organization, why wouldn't we want to help the girl? The game has refused a straight answer for its entire runtime at this point, allowing the intrigue to constantly build, laying mysteries on top of each other while Sora grows more frantic. It keeps the player off balance and makes it easy to question everything that's going on in this castle. Until it all comes to a head here, with Vexen taunting Sora about his memories of Naminé, and every sinking feeling the player has had about the girl starting to feel validated. After beating him, it's only going to take a few words to free the player of doubt and answer what's going on with Sora. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem that's meant to be.
Goodbye.
In a moment, the answers we were so close to getting are ripped away, leaving us at the precipice of a reveal that would reframe everything that has happened so far. But no, we get no payoff here. This moment is a little irritating for the player. After all, we almost had those answers. But luckily, the tease is soothed by another peek at the organization. It's revealed that Vexen's attack on Sora was a sort of initiation for Axel, to make sure he had it in him to take out another member of the organization. Whatever group these guys are a part of is divided, and this castle has traitors crawling all through it. Marluxia and Larxene want control, and they desire Sora's power for their hostile takeover. And even more importantly for Sora's journey, Marluxia drops a bombshell on us like the madman he is by telling Naminé,
"The time is near for you to meet the hero that you've been longing for."
The reveal is subtle, a small word that doesn't immediately strike the player, but it's enough to confirm the deep-seated feelings of suspicion you might have towards the girl. The choice of words here is a subtly brilliant decision. You may not realize it, but word choice has a significant sway in how a person perceives the meaning of what's being said. So in storytelling, it's incredibly important to make sure that you clearly convey what you wish to communicate, or tease out the things you want them to feel. So the word choice of meet is suspiciously vague due to the word's dual meanings. Any one of you watching this can go meet someone. And now that I've said that, you can ask yourself, did I mean for you to meet up with someone you know? Or meet someone for the first time? The word itself is unclear and requires context to make sense of it in a sentence. It's especially strange considering that the word reunion meets the dramatic flair Kingdom Hearts dialogue maintains. The word is a lot clearer in what it communicates, making it arguably a better fit for the line. Unless he did mean it in meeting for the first time. When paired with the strangely menacing vibe of the scene, one has to wonder, is this Naminé and Sora meeting again? Or for the first time? Everything surrounding the girl doesn't line up here. Something is clearly wrong with her being in Sora and Riku's memories, and the only way to sort out this twisted chain is climbing higher to find.
The climax of this game begins by inverting the first, where once we saw Donald and Goofy abandoning us for their mission, now we see Sora abandoning them for his goal of saving Naminé. Their pleas for their friend to calm down fall on deaf ears as the enraged Sora marches to the next floor without them, opening the door to discover nowhere else but his home. In both narrative and level choice, the game has completely inverted what we had from the first game. Now, the climax of our game takes place in the first one's starting area. The tutorial level itself is now home to the most important reveals of this game. Destiny Islands is as relaxing as ever, with gentle music and carefree kids playing on the beach. It's almost jarring in how peaceful it is, given what we've been going through. There's no real plot to the world. Sora's friends tease him about Namine, and the Riku of Sora's memories is encouraging him to protect her, as suddenly Darkseid and Heartless appear on the islands. Once it's defeated, we find here, in the place Sora's journey began, Namine. After thanking our hero for saving her, she apologizes. She pulls back and finally confirms our suspicions.
I'm not supposed to be in this picture.
A second Namine appears to tell Sora that she's never met him before. The boy tries to argue by showing her the good luck charm, but she still insists they haven't met. The person Sora really wants to see is someone else. At Namine's prodding, the good luck charm returns to its original form, and the Namine from his memories returns to Kairi. Sora can't quite place the girl's name anymore though, and he leaves the island in order to maybe, finally, discover the truth. Back in the halls of Castle Oblivion, Sora finds Namine again, who tries to explain things but gets cut off by Riku. He insists Sora's messed up memories are screwing things up, and we have to kick his ass again. After the fight, Sora tries to help his injured friend, who in return attempts to kill him. Luckily, Namine is able to stop him dead in his tracks. Before she can explain what she did to him, Larxene shows up to be just the biggest bitch. She tells Sora that the Riku he's been fighting is a fake, a puppet made by Vexen filled with fake memories. By Namine. And naturally, we can tell that Sora's had the same thing done to him. The organization members in the castle were using Namine to manipulate and control Sora, and they would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for that meddling Axel, who released Namine so she could tell Sora the truth. Deciding that Sora's no good for the plan anymore, Larxene goes in for the kill.
You're going down alone!
Luckily, Donald and Goofy rush in to save Sora, and the trio finishes the woman off. Finally, with no more distractions, this lets them get the whole story from Namine. She's been tampering with Sora and friends' memories because Marluxia threatened to lock her inside the castle forever if she didn't. This lonely girl was desperate, so she gave in to his demands and started this whole memory problem. But Sora's having none of it. Not because he's mad at her, but because he doesn't want her to be sad. Even though he knows the memories he has of her are fake, he still promised not to make her cry. His promise feels real despite knowing that it never happened, and Sora intends to keep it. The girl tells the gang that she can fix their memories on the 13th floor, but to do so, they're gonna have to get through Marluxia. They leave her to watch over Riku and go to finish off the lord of this castle. Finally, we have the whole truth. Every mystery surrounding Namine has been tied up neatly, reframing the events of the game in a whole new light. And the fun thing about the twist is that it reframes everything that happened in the Disney worlds as part of the scheme to control Sora. Almost every Disney world prior to this focused on either gaining back memories or reuniting with someone. In the Colosseum, Cloud is working for Hades to kill Hercules also he can get his memory back. In Agrabah, the focus is on rescuing and reuniting with Jasmine. Monstro is about keeping Pinocchio and Geppetto together. Hook Ship actually does both, as we save Wendy and promise to Peter Pan that even if we leave, we won't forget Neverland. Atlantica is about saving Flounder for Ariel, and the 100 Acre Woods doesn't have a lot going on, but at least the minigames are fun this time. As long as you're on the PS2 version, that is. And the GBA version will have you more depressed than Eeyore. And while not technically a Disney World, Hollow Bastion is about reuniting Beast and Belle. The most compelling of all these is Halloween Town, where Dr. Finkelstein has created a potion to awaken someone's true memories. Oogie steals and drinks it, causing him to become incredibly terrified of everything, leading the Doctor to speculate that true memories are something completely terrifying. This is the first time we actually see Sora hesitate in this game, but Jack tells him to embrace his fear, consequently also telling him to embrace his true memories of Namine. So, how does the twist affect these worlds? Simple! We obviously know from the first game that this isn't how anything originally went down, so we know that the memories are fakes. So what we can assume is that the narrative of each of these levels is something constructed by Namine. As per the organization's plan, she's taken the memories Sora's provided and remixed them into something to bring him closer to her. The whole game, it was obvious that what went on between floors was suspect. Many didn't realize, though, that these worlds between were also doing a lot of work to support the scheme. And what makes this even more interesting is the exception to this, Wonderland. Wonderland is only interesting for the end, where Alice convinces the Queen of Hearts to leave them alone by tricking her into thinking she hired them to hunt down the thief who stole her memory.
These words simply convinced the queen that she had of course ordered them to do this. Her wisdom was how they managed to defeat this foe. The message here is simple. Memories can be misleading. Aerith said as much in Traverse Town. So I believe that this is Sora's subconscious, or maybe even Naminé's conscience, telling him that something is wrong here. Everything isn't quite what it seems, and this final vestige of his resistance to what's going on will soon fade. That's why it's one of the earliest worlds in the game, because Sora's resistance to his changed memories is fading fast. It's a neat little bit of story that isn't immediately apparent, and makes the journey of the castle just a bit more harrowing. So even though the individual plots of the worlds are pretty lackluster, they all manage to tie into the plot on a greater scale, even if it's just through theming. With that out of the way, let's progress to the 13th floor to hunt down our last enemy, Marluxia. Sora still struggles to remember Kairi, even with Donald and Goofy trying to help him out, and naturally they start getting scared over their memories. So the three make a promise, to always be friends no matter if they get separated or forget each other. Unfortunately, while they travel the 13th floor, Marluxia takes Naminé before he's confronted by Axel. The red-headed assassin reveals that he was sent to the castle to kill the traitors, and now he's following Marluxia's orders to the letter.
You must eliminate the traitor.
No taking that back later.
In response, the pink-haired man pulls Naminé out, knowing that Axel doesn't really care if she lives or dies. Unfortunately, though, that's when Sora walks in, and he isn't happy with Axel's disregard of Naminé's life. After beating the redhead, he disappears, leaving them with nothing to do but to chase down Marluxia, who escaped while they fought. On arrival, the big bad commands Naminé to completely wipe Sora's memory and destroy his heart so he can make him a useful puppet. Naminé refuses, but the hero tries to convince her to do it, if that's what it takes to keep her safe. He tells her that even if she does so, he'll rebuild his memories with his friend's help, something Marluxia scoffs at since he'll be little more than an empty husk, just like the puppet Vexen made. Said puppet takes great offense to that and comes to the rescue, getting Naminé away from Marluxia. Even knowing his heart and mind, and even the promise he made to her is a lie, he swears to uphold it. With Replica on the defense, Sora is finally able to fight Marluxia with no hesitation at all, while the man mocks him for letting fake memories decide his path. Beating the pink-haired model reject reveals that he was a fake, and we have to go deeper in the castle to fight his real form. But even with his power-up, he's no match for Sora, who seals him in the crumbling room they fought in. With Marluxia out of the way, Replica takes his leave, with words of encouragement from Sora.
Who cares if someone created you? You are you, and nobody else. You have your own heart inside you. Those feelings and memories are yours, and yours alone. They're special.
But the poor puppet still refers to himself as a fake, and he thanks Sora for the kind words. Finally, it's time to set everyone's memory right. Naminé explains that memories can't be erased. They are all connected like a chain that makes up a person, so what she has to do is untangle the chain she rearranged. The side effect of all this is that the crew will forget everything that happened in Castle Oblivion. Still, even knowing that, Sora chooses to get his old memories back, which definitely hurts Naminé.
Okay. Nobody needs to keep a bunch of memories that aren't real, right? You want to remember all of the people who are really important to you.
You can even see her wince in pain the moment he says the words, all while putting herself down. The silence after is deafening. While we triumphed over our big bad, it doesn't fix the core conflict of Sora's broken memory. The cost of putting things right is high, especially for Naminé herself. She spent a long time totally isolated from other people and was only motivated to mess with our heroes in the first place because she couldn't stand being alone anymore. Unfortunately for her though, she's a bit too good of a person to have derived much enjoyment from this deal. Her guilty conscience prevented her from even being able to look forward to that connection she so desperately craved. That guilt though did allow her to free Sora from the trick being played on him, and for a short while she does get that real connection with him. Might be motivated by false memories, but Sora's positive outlook on the whole situation makes it feel real for her as well. The memory of being her protector is fake, but because the feelings are real, he makes those memories true in a sense. Despite all that though, the pain she feels when Sora says he wants his old memory back is telling. Despite her guilt and her knowing this is how things would likely end, a part of her still yearned to keep that connection alive. But ultimately, it's pointless. No one has a bond with her. No one actually cares for her. It's all fake, and she isn't important to anyone. And just when she's accepted that's her role in all this.
Goodbye.
No, not goodbye. When I wake up, I'll find you. And then there will be no lies. We're gonna be friends for real. Promise me, Naminé.
Sora takes this bittersweet, almost melancholic ending and spins it into something positive. This is why Sora is only to be known as the goodest boy. Weep at the overwhelming positivity he brings to the world around him. Feed your yearning to be as good as him. Seriously though, being like Sora is a hell of a life goal. And I think he's great even though he hasn't really had much character growth since the end of the first game. Sora's mostly a static character, and as a static character they need to do one thing in the narrative. Create a change in the story and other characters. His unrelenting and earnest positivity does just that. This is the perfect example of it. This story, by all accounts, was heading for a bittersweet conclusion, but Sora decided to show Naminé just a little bit of kindness, allowing the lonely girl to continue hoping for the day she can truly have a friend. With all that said and done, Sora hops into a pod meant to keep him safe while Naminé fixes his memory, and he's finally able to remember Kairi, as the other girl fades from his mind. The boy slips into a year-long slumber, bringing us to an end of Chain of Memories. Tale of a boy being manipulated by his own memory to save the girl deceiving him, and he still ends up evading the bad end of everything. It's a journey teaching the value of memory, and that the people you connect with will always be a part of you, even if you forget them. We don't see it put into practice here, but I think Sora's more right about memory than Marluxia. Even if Sora had all of his memories erased, his friends still would have remembered. And even if they forgot, well, they were close enough to form that bond in the first place, and there's evidence they knew each other from before. The traces of the past can't be completely escaped. Sora's friends aren't just his power, but they keep him grounded. They keep him him. The connections can never be undone. Not entirely. No matter how distant or how long it's been spent apart, you will still be connected with your friends. The nature of the bond may change over time, and may even turn sour in some ways, but the chain doesn't break. As Sora realized in the first game, their hearts have come together. And the game doesn't even shy from the negatives of that. This entire tale is one of Sora being manipulated. His main strength is shown as his greatest weakness here. The power of friendship the boy so wholeheartedly agreed with is the one thing that lets him get manipulated like this. He's vulnerable to those he sees as friends. But in the way he manages to make an end here where even Naminé gets to be happy, he shows that that vulnerability is a fine price to pay. Lets him take even moments of weakness and shows that he can twist them into something good for himself and others. And even that outcome born of fake memories has worked him. Sure, he knows his memories are fake, but that doesn't mean the feelings have to be. He can treat Naminé like a good friend because now that they've met, there isn't any reason why they can't be. False memories gave him a foundation to create an actual bond. The fake memories create real emotion, and as far as this game is concerned, that's more than enough to make them valuable. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories is here to tell us that we decide what's important to us. No one else gets a say in whether it's real or not. That's our decision. And that is a hell of an empowering message. And it's only half the things we can actually derive from this narrative. Before talking about gameplay and aesthetic though, we have something else to cover. First, we have to take a look at the other side of the story. Because as you probably know, Sora's not the only hero in this castle. That's right, this game sees the return of Riku, and as an added treat, lets us play as Sora's fallen friend as he climbs out of Castle Oblivion's basement. From the start, the development team knew they wanted to side Riku, but it wasn't until the latter half of development that they realized they could actually go through with this wild idea. This route, later to be known as Reverse Rebirth, was designed from the ground up to be different from Sora's in terms of gameplay in pretty much every way. They didn't want it to be just more of the same as Sora's campaign. And trust me, with how draining I find combat in this game, that fact is a godsend. But we'll get to that in a second. For now, let's take a dive into what makes Riku's story so interesting. We pick up in a strange void outside the realm of darkness. A voice Riku can't quite place calls to him, telling him to sleep and telling him he's in a place between the darkness and the light. It tries to goad him into slumber, to let himself stay in the dark, but it also offers him a card. This card supposedly will open a door to the truth, a painful path that won't allow him to return to the safety of sleep. Riku's no Sora though, and gladly takes the card, which brings him to the bottom of Castle Oblivion. The card said to lead him to the truth has a picture of Hollow Bastion on it, and with nothing else to do, Riku uses the card on the door in the room. But before we actually get into that, let's talk about the obvious symbolism going on here.
Sora starts on the ground floor and has to ascend the castle to save the damsel in distress, a typical setup for a simplistic hero story. Riku, on the other hand, has to start 12 floors below and struggle just to reach the ground floor. In other words, just to return to the light. Just to get on Sora's level, he's gonna have to fight with all he's got to gain all he lost. Riku's story, especially in this game, is a tale of redemption, and the imagery of ascending the castle from the basement, the part no light shines on to the surface, is surprisingly poignant. With that in mind, let's enter Hollow Bastion, where the voice informs Riku about the cards showing worlds from his memory, but also gives him an ominous message. These worlds contain all the people within his memory. Ordinarily. That one word's enough to scratch at something in the player's mind, and we'll find out what he means by that shortly. Riku runs to the castle where he discovers no one. All he finds is his old room, where he's taunted by the voice. You cast away your home, your friends, everything. But at least they gave you a nice room. Riku gave up on everyone and everything to gain the power of darkness, which he also threw away. The voice claims this has made him empty of all but traces of the darkness that once possessed him. Riku, of course, argues against this and continues on his way. Of course, it's not like Riku didn't form bonds with anyone on his journey. He's got Maleficent at the very least. It's not a great consolation prize, but at least he's not alone. Unfortunately, Riku would definitely prefer that. He's done with darkness and done with Maleficent. So if he's stuck with people of the darkness like her, he swears he'll strike him down one by one. Which the witch is quick to remind him that if he does that, he has to strike himself down last. Riku's response is telling of where the boy's at. That's fine with me. I turned to the darkness because my heart was weak. These words speak to the regret Riku feels over everything he's done and the self-loathing he's developed because of it. So like his desire to destroy the darkness, Riku is ready to take himself down with it. Maleficent is happy to try and do the job for him and takes his dragon form to end the boy's life. So we do what he did in the first game again, but a little more lethally this time. Once Riku leaves the world, the voice asks why he fears the darkness, and continues trying to goad him into accepting it. Of course, this is kind of obvious, but they reveal themselves as Ansem, who wants Riku's servitude back. He easily bodies the boy, calling him weak and trying to lure him in with the promise of strength again. But the voice of King Mickey reminds Riku that he isn't alone and that light won't abandon him, a reassurance that he can still be redeemed. He fights Ansem again, leading the man to give him more cards to navigate the castle, with a reminder that he can never escape the darkness. He then tempers the darkness in Riku so he can use its power before disappearing, with hopes that the boy will submit to his will. That right there is some level of arrogance. With nothing else to do, Riku keeps climbing the castle. And while he does so, we see that somewhere, two other organization members, Zexion and Lexius, are in the castle.
They're approached by Vexen and tell the man that they detected 2 scents here in the basement.
One belonged to Maleficent, and someone with a scent familiar to who he calls the Superior. With a bit of deductive reasoning, we can figure that Riku and the Superior use the same shampoo. Or they have something to do with the kid, or Ansem, but I'm feeling the shampoo theory for now. Either way, Vexen is curious, but the three decide to wait and see what happens. Also, for some reason, the idea of identifying darkness in people by scent is a running theme in this game for Riku and Zexion in particular. And I don't know why, but it's the absolute silliest shit I've ever heard, and I kind of love it for its absurdity. With that in mind, Riku smells darkness on his skin.
And if you want to put yourself in Riku's shoes, just imagine the darkness smells gross. Like that gallon of milk you left in the back of the fridge for 5 months.
Luckily, an image of the king appears to keep Riku from getting too into his head about this. Mickey informs the poor boy that he's heading for the castle and that even if the darkness still has a hold on Riku, he can still remain himself if he holds on to the light. The king disappears and we get to head into our first Disney World. Like Sora's story, these don't provide anything of interest in a bubble. Unlike Sora's story, they offer literally nothing narratively, as Riku's set of worlds have no story to them. So instead, we just get to beat the crap out of whatever big bad is in the world and some Heartless before getting to the actual plot. Between floors, we see the organization members have identified the scent as Riku, and Vexen realizes that's why the presence was familiar to that of the Superior. He hypothesizes that his connection to the darkness is what allowed him to escape its realm. As Zexion wonders why he'd show up here of all places, Vexen informs him it's likely because his heart resonated with that of Sora, who the basement duo weren't even aware of being in the castle. Like an edgy teenager from the 2000s, Vexen claims that Sora's way less interesting than the darker, cooler Riku, and decides to put his focus on this boy instead. And after the very next floor, the scientist himself confronts Riku for the sake of his research. The boy questions if he has anything to do with Ansem, and Vexen answers no, but yes. He has some association with someone who is Ansem and not Ansem, someone he calls a nobody, someone who's in between light and dark, just like Riku. Once again confronted with the fact that darkness lies within him, Riku pulls out his weapon, ready to strike Vexen down since he smells of fridge milk. Turns out though, this is exactly what the man wanted, as it let him collect data on the boy. He tells Riku that darkness is growing in him before disappearing to make that replica that plagued Sora. After a quick trip through Agrabah, the basement crew talks about how the members topside make them uncomfortable with what they're doing, and the animosity Vexen has for Marluxia. After the next floor, we see that the scientist has finished his research, and Riku comes face to face with the replica. He takes issue with Riku calling him fake, as he's better due to his own lack of fear. He believes Riku's fear of the darkness makes him weak, and that his own embracing of it is making him stronger, and he is ready to prove it.
How can I lose to you?
He fails to prove it, but even if Riku won the fight, Repclu manages to knock him back with the darkness, saying that he's only getting stronger and that the cowardly original will never beat him. To add insult to injury, Riku's being taunted by Ansem again, who says Riku should really follow his copy's example. He calls Riku the real fake for pretending to not be scared of the dark. He's obviously getting under Riku's skin again, so he tries to attack. Confident Man gives him more cards, already deciding that Riku's going to give in. And after the next floor, we get an expanded look at a cutscene from Sora's story. We see the moment Vexen decides to test the replica against the boy. Repliclu refuses to let his memories be tampered with because he's stronger than the original and Sora, so there's really no point. But Vexen decides it'll make a better test if the replica thought he was Riku. He attempts to fight back, but Larxene bodies him, and Repliclu screams in terror as his very mind is overwritten, his personality discarded for one more fitting of the role forced on him. Kingdom Hearts for kids! Moving to the next floor gives us another look topside, with Larxene taunting Naminé before being told off by Repliclu, now fully believing himself to be Naminé's friend and protector. Unfortunately, the tragedy here is that his vow to protect her from whatever is eating at her is exactly what's hurting her. Once he's gone, Larxene continues her taunting, but when she brings up making Sora's memory of Kairi fade, Naminé interjects to tell her that she can't make him forget her, and that as Kairi's shadow, any feelings he has for her will just make him care more for Kairi. What exactly that means is a mystery for KH2 to solve, but teasing a connection between her and Kairi while further cementing the permanence of Sora's bond is simply good writing. Also, the absolute contempt Naminé has for Larxene here is a sight to behold. Keep the Keyblades away from this girl. She's about to blow, and I don't think anyone could stop the bloodbath. The next floor finally returns us to the basement, where Zexion and Lexaeus sense the death of Vexen. Apparently, despite being worried about Sora, the two can't kill him because the Superior needs him for something. So Lexaeus puts forward the idea that they gain control of Riku so they can keep Sora in check. Speaking of Riku, he's looking at his last card and wondering if this adventure will really free him of the darkness. There's one thing everyone is getting right about Riku, it's that our boy is deeply terrified of the dark now. Unfortunately, all he finds after this floor is Lexaeus. The huge man, like everyone else, is trying to get Riku to embrace the darkness, and if the boy refuses, he's gonna lose everything. After a tough fight, the two are exhausted, but when Riku charges the man, he gets knocked out. Before Lexaeus can finish him off, though, the darkness takes hold, and while possessed by Ansem, Riku slays him. We see our boy now trapped in a vortex of darkness, with Ansem clawing his way further into his heart. The man laughs and tells the boy that the more he thinks of him, the more power he gains over him. And for the first time, Riku shows off how scared he truly is. Before anything can happen though, Mickey appears again, telling Riku to fight back against Ansem. This gives Riku enough time to get control back, and he begins to move through the castle again, comforted in the knowledge that the king is still with him. As he climbs the stairs, we get to see Axel and Zexion talking. The redhead says that Marluxia's probably next on the chopping block. He asks about Zexion's plan for Riku, and he reveals that with the death of Marluxia, they have no need for the boy anymore, and he begins plotting his murder. Speaking of Marluxia, his death literally shakes the castle to its foundations, and Zexion appears to tell Riku that the keeper of the castle was felled by none other than Sora. Before Riku can get too happy about his friend being near, Zexion plays his mind games, asking if he really plans on showing up in front of Sora when he's so full of darkness. We finally get a villain that isn't trying to coax Riku into the darkness, he just wants to kill him. He lures him in with a card depicting Destiny Islands, a trap Riku is all too eager to follow him into. For the first time, he sees friendly faces when stepping into one of these memory worlds, but his old friends from the islands disappear right in front of him, once again leaving the boy all alone. That is until Zexion reappears, feeding into Riku's fears by reminding him that he's the one who destroyed the islands. Zexion claims many people didn't return from the darkness, and shows what Riku really is as an image of the boy turned into Darkside. I know everyone in this game has been calling Riku a coward, but come on, man. No one's as weak as Darkside. After disposing of the Big Heartless, Riku is finally face to face with his best friend.
Ah! What? Stop it, Sora! Don't you recognize me? Yeah, I recognize you. I can see exactly what you've become.
Of course we know this is some kind of trick. Riku tried to kill Sora in the first game, and he was still trying to help his friend by the end of that one, so this clearly isn't right. All of this talk of banishing the darkness isn't really Sora's speed. He didn't even pull this crap on Ansem. Either way, he blasts Riku with the light, who's swallowed up by it and begins to fade. But before he can die here, he hears Kairi's voice.
The darkness inside your heart, it's vast and it's deep. But if you can, truly stare into it and never try to look away. You won't be afraid of anything again. Know that the darkness is there and don't give in. If you do that, you will gain strength. The kind that's unlike any other. You'll be able to escape the deepest darkness.
And I'll be able to see through the brightest light.
Follow the darkness. It'll show you the way to your friends.
With these words of encouragement, Riku embraces the darkness inside him and cuts through the light and Sora, revealed to be Zexion in disguise. The theater kid spouts some threats, but he's no match for the more confident Riku. The organization member tries getting in his head again, but our boy cuts him down. Or at least he tries to. Somehow out of everyone, he's the one who teleports away. And now that he's gone, let's talk about that pep talk Riku just got from Naminé in the fight. Up until this point, darkness has been painted as something outright evil in the series, an all-consuming plague devouring the hearts of people and worlds. It corrupted Riku in the first game, and our main enemies are literal manifestations of it. But we also know that it's something everyone has inside them. It's not something as simple as being evil. Riku's darkness was born of his desire to escape his home and to see other worlds, something some of the pure-hearted princesses in the first game could definitely relate to. So, what makes Riku different? The boy was frustrated and curious and realized that the raft probably wasn't going to get him his goals, so he let darkness in and caused his home to be swallowed up in it. As his frustrations grow, so did the darkness inside him. His fears of being weak stem from his pride, fears that Sora incidentally made stronger through the first game. Those are the core to Riku's darkness, fear and pride. Feelings that make people lash out and isolate themselves. Feelings that are often considered by everyone to be evil. The very things that drew Riku into the dark are what have motivated countless tragedies both in the games and in real life. With all that in mind, why is Riku using the darkness suddenly okay? He realized that strength alone wasn't what he wanted anymore. He's beginning here to reframe his negative emotions into something positive, channeling them for what's right. While KH1 Riku felt he was strong so he had to be on top, this Riku knows he has strength, and he's gonna use it to reunite with and protect his friends. The old Riku feared Sora would disturb his place in the world, while this slightly older Riku fears the very things that led him to feel that way in the first place. Riku's pride tells him he has the strength to fight, and his fear lets him self-reflect. They aren't motivating him towards destruction this time, they are helping him grow. They tell him he's capable of better and help him make sure he doesn't go back to the way he was. The easiest way for us to look at it here is that the darkness is extremely volatile, and few could probably manage to wield it. But Riku might just have the strength it takes to make it his ultimate weapon. And with that newfound strength, he continues to the castle, while Axel and Repliku approach Zexion. Unfortunately, the guy knows just a little too much about everything that went down in the castle, so Axel has the replica off the bookworm to take his power. While Repliku's off doing a murder, his original is once again confronted by the words of Ansem, who tells him that controlling him is simple now that he's let darkness inside. As always, Mickey pops in to save him. Just in person this time. This is something deeply significant. For Riku, Mickey has always been the light in the darkness. When consumed by Ansem, it was the King's Call that saved him and gave him a chance at redemption in the first game. Mickey is the very idea of never being alone or abandoned made manifest for Riku. He represents the balance Riku needs to control his own darkness. It's the inescapable tie he has to the light. And just like Ansem has done so many times in this game, he gives Riku a card to move forward. His journey all this time has been pushed forward by the symbols of his light and the symbol of his darkness. Both forces have brought him here, to the point that he can confidently say he can embrace both sides of himself. And of course, where would those forces lead him but Twilight Town? In this quiet, sun-soaked town he doesn't know, Riku comes face to face with Ansem, or at least a guy pretending to be him. Riku's well-honed nose tells him the truth. This guy is someone else entirely. Someone who doesn't smell of fridge milk. This man, calling himself Diz, was the one who actually called Riku here, for the sake of getting him to choose between the light and the darkness. Essentially, he's curious about what Riku's existence will end up looking like. He tells the boy to meet Naminé before disappearing, leaving the confused Riku to wander the town where he once again meets his replica. Repliku lashes out in what I can only call an existential tantrum in order to create an identity by defeating the person he was copied from. His existence derived from borrowed strength and false memories can't satisfy him. No matter what he does or what anyone tells him, it's never gonna be his. It will always be in the shadow of Riku, the original and the only. So if that's his fate, all he can do is try and deny this existence by stealing Riku's as his own. And when even that fails, all he can do is fade away.
This one's strong. Real thing. What happens when a fake dies? One like me. Where will my heart go? Does it disappear? It'll go somewhere. Maybe to the same place as mine.
The irony of this interaction is that for fans of this game in particular, Repliku is one of the most beloved parts of the game. His story is compelling and surprisingly existential for something connected to Disney of all things. Born a copy, forced to live a fake life only to rediscover that he isn't real, finding out that all his feelings are born of false memories and that nothing he has is original. It's tragic. It's an entire life built on lies that ends at the blade of the guy he was copied from. It's a poor existence, twisted and turned at the whims of the organization that, in his eyes, leave him completely separated from the chain of memories that binds this cast together. All he has to himself are the memories of this castle, and the biggest tragedy of all is that he didn't recognize himself, and those few memories as enough. A common point between Sora and Riku here is how they treat the replica. Sora told him outright that his experiences were more than enough to make his own person. And here on his deathbed, Riku tells him that their hearts may go to the same place. In other words, that the replica is just as real as he is. And it's those words that comfort him as he fades, content being Riku's replica.
A faithful replica until the very end. That's okay.
But the original still has his own journey to finish. Further in the town, he meets Naminé and sees what's happened to Sora. The girl explains Sora's side of the story before making Riku an offer. Ansem still lies in Riku's darkness, and Naminé can seal the man in there for good, at the cost of Riku's memories of the dark. Which, I mean, doesn't sound like such a bad deal. No more fearing it, no memories of his betrayal, no wondering if he's worthy of staying with his friends, and of course, a way to be free of Ansem's influence. At the start of the trek up this castle, Riku would have gladly taken her up on that offer, but not anymore. He's accepted the darkness as a part of himself, and accepted everything he did. To free himself of the dark isn't his goal anymore. It's a strength of his, and he's carrying it with him as long as he needs to. And the first task he's using it for is defeating the man who lured him to the dark side in the first place. Right outside Twilight Town, Riku meets up with the king and Diz, who's explained the situation to Mickey. He's not willing to reveal his identity to anyone, but he does give the two some organization cloaks that will hide their presence from the group. His final gift is a card showing the castle itself, a card that will draw out the darkness inside Riku and finally let him face off with Ansem. Of course, there is a chance that things won't work out, so Riku tries to get Mickey to promise to kill him. But the king has another idea.
To destroy.
Of course! I'll be right there to save ya.
Huh?
In his time of greatest need, Mickey has been here to tell Riku that he's not alone, that there are people who won't give up on him. Riku is finally getting the power friendship lesson he needed, and it gives him the courage to march towards the parasite lurking within him. Before they can fight, though, Ansem has one lingering question.
Why do you accept the darkness, but still refuse me?
I just can't stand your foul stench.
Riku may have embraced his own darkness, but that doesn't mean he's gonna be this guy's puppet or abuse the darkness the same way he does. With that said, there's only one option left, to get rid of him.
This one. Why do you refuse the darkness?
Finally, after all this time, Riku defeats Ansem on his own, but the man informs him that he will still be lingering in the dark in return. Riku gets swallowed up by his darkness as he dies, only to be saved by a little help from Mickey. As the two leave the castle, Riku explains to the king that Ansem's still somewhere inside him, and the king encourages Riku to keep using the darkness since he can use it in a way no one else can. It seems he thinks that if anyone can do it, it's Riku. The king decides to travel with Riku, and together they end up at a crossroads where Diz is waiting. He asks the boy what path he's on, and Riku gets to deliver only the finest of cheesy dialogue.
Neither suits me. I'm taking the middle road.
Do you mean the Twilight Road to Nightfall?
No. It's the road to dawn.
While it's as subtle as a hammer to the face, it's still the perfect capstone of the story. Riku hasn't quite gotten to work on redeeming himself. Instead, he spent the game learning and figuring out his relationship with his darkness. The Twilight Road Diz mentions is the path Riku took in the first game, one that isolated him and made him unhappy. But this time, he's using those same feelings for growth, to protect his friends and chart out his future, even if the path he's taken isn't always easy. And that finally draws to a close Chain of Memories narrative. If Sora's journey in Kingdom Hearts 1 is about him growing into a hero, I think Riku's journey in this game is just about him growing up, learning how to deal with the good and bad of life, and try to make something wonderful out of it. He matures, realizes he did some really dumb things, and works to make amends for his actions while learning about how to deal with the world and himself. Riku's journey is a lot more personal than Sora's. I think that's why Riku is such a popular character for this fanbase. Unlike Sora, few ever have to try and be a hero, but we all have to face the struggle of growing up. And while it can be extremely hard, and some people never grow up no matter how old they get, it's something relatable for a lot of people. Riku's journey here will come through strongly for anyone who's ever messed up big time and realized they needed to make a change. And it's a perfect fit for Chain of Memories' plot. It's an incredibly unique journey for Kingdom Hearts, focusing on suspense, intrigue, and the inner workings of the characters. The Kingdom Hearts series is known for having some out there titles, but Chain of Memories is the perfect encapsulation of this tale. Both Sora and Riku are bound by their memories. Sora through the scheme to manipulate him, and Riku through his fear of the darkness. But Sora's able to take that chain and with some help from Naminé, turn what anyone else would consider a great betrayal into a source of strength. He uses his fake memories for the sake of making Naminé's life better, despite what she did to him. The source may have been false, but Sora was able to make a real positive difference with them. While the origin of the memories do matter, like Naminé said, who wants to keep a bunch of fake memories, the feelings they inspire being real makes them have value still. A lesser story simply would have had it be that, yeah, false memories are bad, but Chain of Memories is able to take this plot point and to actually explore it with a bit of nuance. It also touches on betrayal in a very interesting way. As we've touched on several times already, those feelings the fake memories inspired are real, which makes Naminé's betrayal just that, a real betrayal. In an unsurprising twist, Kingdom Hearts looks at this in a very empathetic way. It never absolves Naminé of what she's done, but it says, like, yeah, I get it, we get why you did it, so we're not going to hold it against you. It has the surprisingly mature idea of looking at the reasons why someone does something instead of just what they did. And while all this is going on, Riku's learning how to accept his past, how to take the chains that bind him off and make them his strength instead. The fear, and consequently his memories, become a source of growth and change for the boy. No matter how badly you screw up, no matter what you did wrong, as long as you have a support system, people there to help you, you can come out the other side a better person. It'll suck for a bit. All the things haunting Riku definitely hurts him for most of this game's runtime. But they are a part of him. He can't just give up on those memories. The boy has learned a valuable lesson and takes responsibility for his actions. And both these heroes are contrasted by Repliku. His inability to accept anything that happened here as being his own left him unable to justify his existence. He had no connection to anyone, at least not any that he would consider real, and it leads him to picking a fight he probably realizes isn't going to work out for him. His reckless actions cost him his life. A life that the people he fought most told him was meaningful. His memories never stopped being his baggage. He would always know that he wasn't original, just a simple copy of someone else. Because of that, he would never be able to accept himself. The chain weighed far too heavy for him, and the burden crushed him. The simple reality of the situation is that some people just can't bear those memories. Sometimes it causes them to lash out, do destructive things, and ultimately can destroy them. Memories are a powerful thing, and the game knows that. They are a driving force for everyone. They are our bonds, our knowledge, and our ability to engage with the world around us. It doesn't really matter if they're fake or if they scare us. The fact is that they are a part of us, and what effect they have comes down to each individual person. Our strength derives from how we use the chain of memories that make us up, and how we use that strength to live our lives. Whether we've been betrayed or fear something from our past, the fact of the matter is that those experiences are inarguably parts of us, which means we can use them however we see fit. So yeah, Chain of Memories is a game about coping with trauma and betrayal. Didn't see that coming when I started the script, but here we are. Anyway, to everyone watching this, I hope you can appreciate how surprisingly well written this plot is, because it is unfortunately paired with the card combat. If you clicked on this video, you probably already know about Chain of Memories' unique combat. I mentioned back at the start that Nomura wanted to use cards as a major motif for the game, mostly because he was interested in card games at the time. In an interview from the Com Ultimania, Yuichi Kanemori, Takeshi Arakawa, Tomohiro Hasegawa, and Tatsuya Kondo talk about how the game started as a pure card game, but action elements kept being added in over time to give it more of that KH feel. The results? Well, let's get into that now. Combat in this game is based all around a deck of cards. Each card corresponds to a certain action, such as using a regular attack with Keyblade, casting magic, or using an item. All basic stuff the command menu in Kingdom Hearts 1 let you do. In both versions, these basics are fine. Swinging the Keyblade around feels good, arguably better than in the first game in this case. Issues start to come in when we take a look at these little bastards on the corner of the cards. Each card has a number on it that denotes its rank. Higher ranked cards break lower ranked cards and stun whoever used the lower card for a second. 0 cards beat anything and get beaten by everything, depending on what order they're played. Again, it's not so bad, as it does encourage you to think about what cards you want in your deck and try to remember the value of cards the enemy can throw out. It keeps you from just mashing through the game mindlessly by making you think just a bit before you do anything. And if you do want to play that way, just fill the deck with 9s and get to swinging. The issue with that is that basic attacks do very little in terms of damage, which is where Sleights come into play. By stocking 3 cards and using them, Sora and Riku will use a special ability that does more damage or has an extra effect. The ability you use will most often be decided by what card types you use or the value they make. The game keeps an easy to access record so you can see whatever Sleights you have and how to use them. The big drawback to Sleights is that the first card you put in the stock disappears. It'll be out of your deck for the rest of the battle unless you use an item to get it back. The only actions you can take outside of using cards are moving, jumping, and dodging. If you're a blocking fan, I need you to do me a favor and get the hell out of my house. So this is all fairly simple and adds up to be a fairly interesting combat system. When the game is going good, it is really fun still. One of the weaker entries in the series, but at the very least enjoyable. Unfortunately, I find that 2 fundamental flaws hold it back from ever reaching the low bar of at least kinda fun. First, not all Sleights are created equal. In fact, I'd say most aren't even particularly useful. Maybe around half the Sleights in the game are something you want to use, but even then, most of them are outshined by a few. Sonic Blade, Lethal Frame, and Mega Flare. These 3 Sleights are by far the biggest bang for your buck in this game, putting their contemporaries to shame. Sonic Blade tears through mobs and bosses and has a high enough value that it will rarely be broken. And you can stun like bosses long enough that the attack will finish before they can even try to get out with a 0. Lethal Frame casts stop on all the enemies and just absolutely lets you melt most bosses. Mega Flare is simply a screen nuke. No need to worry about regular enemies once you get this unlocked because it destroys pretty much everything with one cast. Fun thing though, most of those were only added in the re-release on the PS2. But don't go thinking the GBA version is more balanced. In that game, Sonic Blade is still a powerhouse of a Sleight, and it's in good company with Blitz, both of which keep you on top of the enemy and prevent them from attacking. Speaking of that GBA release, the 2 versions play shockingly similar. But there's one major difference I have to highlight: dodging. Of course, on the PS2 version, just hit square. It lets you dodge just fine. 1 button, 1 dodge roll, nothing can hit you for that time. But in the GBA version, it's done by tapping twice in a direction. While this might not seem like an issue, think about this in the most simplistic terms. If you hit a button to dodge, it's fairly instantaneous. It's just the delay between how fast you can hit the button once and doing the motion. Double tapping a direction takes twice as long. You have to hit button twice, you have to go through this process of hitting the button twice. And while it's most certainly a skill issue on my part, this was just a pain for me and led to far more deaths than I care to admit. Anyway, back to the Sleights, all these powerful ones break the combat's balance. And I wouldn't blame anyone if they don't use most Sleights they unlock because these few just do so much heavy lifting. But the fact we have these good Sleights isn't really much of a boon here. When you only have a handful of good options, things get tedious real quick, so these powerful attacks more often hold the game back than let it thrive. And that's not even the worst part of the combat. No, the single worst thing in this game is so mind-bogglingly ridiculous that it's hard to imagine how anyone thought it was okay. And the worst part is, it doesn't have anything to do with the combat itself. It has to do with the preparation for combat. You get more cards in this game by random chance. Sure, that fits the vibe of card games, right? But that means if you get unlucky while going through the game, your options can be incredibly weak cards with a low value, or the high value cards that again, you'll probably just shovel towards Sonic Blade. It gets especially egregious when you realize that some Sleights take different Keyblade cards to use, and it all comes down to chance if you'll have the variety of cards you need to use those abilities consistently. Luckily, grinding cards isn't hard in the slightest, just walk around hitting objects in the environment, but you could still in the situation where you have to grind cards. It brings the game to a complete and utter standstill. And yes, there is the Moogle shop where you can buy cards, but for that you need Moogle points, which you also get by destroying random objects, and the Moogle shops also only give you random selections, which means that your strength in this game isn't determined by your level or anything, it comes down to random chance. But wait, listen, it gets worse actually. Because the card-based gameplay goes beyond the combat, it also dictates exploration. Each floor of Castle Oblivion has a pre-arranged set of rooms to go through, but what shape and gimmicks those rooms have are actually decided by the player when they enter it using a card to create the room. For most rooms, this process is simple as having a map card with a higher value than the room you're in. But in the case of special rooms where actual plot gets to happen, you need cards that meet whatever requirement is on the door, such as having a 4-value map card of a specific color. This is a problem, because just like attack cards, there are multiple types of map cards. You've got the red ones that buff or nerf enemies in the room, green ones that generally buff Sora or Riku, and finally the blue ones which give you access to the Moogle shop, treasure, or a save point.
Like I said before, some of these doors want a certain value in order to enter them, which led me to this door that wants a 2, which took me 30 minutes just to get the card I needed to get in.
Luckily, this issue was mitigated in the remake by adding roulette rooms to the game. These rooms can drop cards that start up a roulette that lets you pick a map card from a set. With this, worries of not having the right kind of card to progress fade away. But that still leaves me wondering why they thought it was a good idea in the first place. There is no good reason to lock game progression behind a randomized system, and it's especially infuriating since it's not even a guaranteed problem you'll have. And another consequence of this decision is that it makes level design incredibly boring. No matter what floor, no matter what level, the map cards will always make a room with the same design. You can use the map card that makes a room of Sleeping Heartless, and that same template is used for the entire game. The lack of a variety and repetitive level design creates these disconnected, boring levels that offer nothing at all in terms of exploration. This is especially a shame since all the level themes returned from Kingdom Hearts 1 and are now remixed for the GBA, and for the most part they keep up the quality. Partnered with those reimagined themes for the GBA, this game has an incredibly charming visual style that more than justifies its existence. Even if the levels aren't fun in the slightest, the novelty of its design does make that grind feel a little bit better. Chain of Memory, however, doesn't have that luxury, and in terms of presentation just looks cheap and dull in comparison. If it weren't for having better controls, I wouldn't be able to recommend it for how cheap its own presentation feels. Luckily, Riku's side of the game fixes at least one half of this game's broken mechanics. He has to deal with the terrible exploration system, same as Sora, but his combat lets you do something you can't with Sora's. Have fun! Riku doesn't get to edit his decks, instead he gets a predetermined one depending on the world he's in, and while that sounds limiting, it is. And that's what makes it fun. Instead of random chance dictating what you can or can't do, You'll always be able to have fun with combat here because there's never a risk of not having the cards you'll need. The limited decks mean you have to make more interesting decisions about how you use your cards, because like I said, Sleights use the first card in the stock unless you get it back with an item card. So with Riku not being able to have the massive deck Sora can make, you have to think harder about when to use a Sleight, or if you just want to use regular attacks. Or to break through the enemy's cards, because Riku gets another interesting trick up his sleeve. Breaking enemy cards will put him in dark mode, where he becomes a playable boss fight. He tears enemies to shreds like this, and is really only at risk from the game's later boss fights. All of his Sleights get more powerful, and he actually has the same attacks as his final battle from Kingdom Hearts 1, making this a hell of a power trip. That's not his only new tool though. In the PS2 version of the game, they also gave him the ability to duel enemies. If Riku matches the value of an enemy's card, they enter into a duel where you have to beat the enemy's numbers enough times and a time limit to win, and you get an extremely powerful attack for your troubles. These are by far the strongest attacks you can use with Riku, but because of the frantic nature of these, it doesn't get stale like spamming Sleights does. It's also helped along by the fact that by Riku's route being much shorter, you don't get tired of these things. It's an unfortunate situation where your dessert ends up putting the meal to shame.
Denouement.
All in all, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories is the definition of a mixed bag. Its combat is mired with a few fundamental issues, but is partnered with one of the most introspective and suspenseful plots in the series. The worlds are lifeless and have no real level design, but the presentation and music is still a standout. It's a game of peaks and valleys, one that I can't say I look forward to replaying. That being said, it still has a story that I'm never gonna forget. The themes are explored with a surprising amount of depth. The story is really interesting. The suspense and intrigue are really set up well. It's the very antithesis of what a lot of people boil these game stories down to. Because of that, it's a game that I am incredibly happy that I've played, and incredibly happy that I replayed for this video. This is the first time I've grasped how truly good this game actually is in its writing. But it's also some of the least fun I've had with its combat. So, while this game does offer something of value, something that should be experienced, God, playing it is a drag. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, and all that other good stuff. Again, thank you for listening to my insane ramblings. See you next time.